The Night Stalker. During the period leading up to June 1984, a chilling series of murders unfolded through a string of home invasions across California. The perpetrator's methods were nothing short of diabolical, as he would stealthily infiltrate homes under the cover of night, subjecting his victims to brutal beatings, assaults, and even sinister satanic rituals before ultimately snuffing out their lives. Law enforcement found themselves grappling with what appeared to be a deranged individual prowling the streets in search of prey each night. The killer's signature was the eerie presence of satanic symbols left behind at the scenes of his heinous acts, earning him the ominous moniker of the Night Stalker. His atrocities transcended mere murder, delving into realms of extreme violence, sadism, and a disturbing absence of empathy or remorse for those he preyed upon. Traces of prolonged torture inflicted upon some victims bore witness to the depths of his depravity, inflicting both physical agony and psychological torment with a sadistic glee that hinted at a twisted enjoyment of inflicting pain. The pursuit of the Night Stalker unfolded as one of the most extensive manhunts in California's annals, with a legion of over 200 detectives tirelessly working the case. In a dramatic turn of events in August 1985, the killer was apprehended after being recognized and subdued by a group of vigilant residents in East Los Angeles. With that, Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, was finally brought to justice. Throughout his trial, Ramirez defiantly embraced his Night Stalker persona, brazenly flashing pentagrams at the cameras and callously taunting the grieving families of his victims. Adding to the macabre saga, during Ramirez's trial in 1989, a juror named Phyllis Singletary tragically passed away under mysterious circumstances. Singletary was discovered lifeless in her apartment, with her demise attributed to a lethal cocktail of alcohol and prescription drugs, notably Valium and codeine. Occurring during the trial's penalty phase, Singletary's untimely death fueled speculation that Ramirez may have played a role in her demise. Ultimately, Ramirez was convicted on 13 counts of murder, 5 attempted murders, and 14 burglaries, cementing his legacy as a remorseless predator of the night. The Killer Clown. John Wayne Gacy, known to the public as Pogo the Clown at local community events and charities, harbored a dark and sinister secret behind his jovial facade. In the shadows of his Norwood Park Township, Illinois home, Gacy transformed into a monstrous mass murderer, claiming the lives of 33 young men between 1972 and 1978. Operating under the guise of offering employment opportunities, Gacy enticed his victims to his lair, where he callously snuffed out their lives through strangulation or suffocation. The facade of the friendly clown crumbled in the face of his heinous acts, as the police unearthed a chilling trove of human remains buried in the crawl space of his residence and its vicinity, exposing the depths of his depravity. Delving further into the abyss, investigators uncovered Gacy's meticulous documentation of his atrocities in journals and his macabre collection of mementos from his victims, revealing a twisted game that brought him perverse joy. In 1980, Gacy faced justice, being convicted on 33 counts of murder and handed a death sentence. Even as the specter of his impending demise loomed, Gacy's parting words, "Kiss my ****," served as a final testament to his unrepentant and contemptuous nature. Ted Bundy, with his charming and charismatic demeanor, adeptly concealed a dark and malevolent nature beneath his affable facade. Leveraging his charisma as a potent tool, Bundy skillfully manipulated others' trust to ensnare his unsuspecting victims. His silver-tongued persuasiveness and outwardly pleasant demeanor served as a smokescreen, allowing him to perpetrate a chilling spree of over 30 murders spanning nearly 4 years without raising suspicion. Between 1974 and 1978, Bundy embarked on a harrowing multi-state killing spree, predominantly targeting young women and girls, employing guises of authority or feigning distress, such as posing as an injured individual in need of assistance. Bundy lured his victims into his web of deceit, exploiting their compassion to draw them closer before unleashing his brutal savagery upon them. His modus operandi was marked by gruesome violence, with Bundy's heinous acts often culminating in acts of necrophilia and the macabre ritual of decapitating at least 12 victims to preserve their severed heads as grim mementos. Despite the frequency of his atrocities, Bundy's ability to seamlessly blend into society enabled him to evade capture for an extended period, masquerading as an ordinary individual with a job, relationships, and a veneer of normalcy. As the facade crumbled and Bundy faced trial in Florida, he brazenly assumed the role of his own legal counsel, endeavoring to paint himself as a victim of external influences such as pornography and a troubled upbringing. However, the weight of incriminating evidence bore down upon him, leading to his conviction and subsequent death sentence, laying bare the chilling reality of a man who walked among us as a predator in disguise. Jeffrey Dahmer, a depraved and monstrous figure, delved into the depths of depravity with acts of necrophilia, cannibalism, and the macabre preservation of body parts from his victims, crafting a nightmarish legacy that nearly eluded justice were it not for a miraculous escape by one of his intended victims. Dahmer's sinister modus operandi revolved around luring primarily young African-American men and boys to his lair under the guise of hospitality, only to betray their trust by drugging them and subjecting them to unspeakable horrors. Following their deaths, he callously dismembered their remains, retaining grisly trophies such as skulls, hands, and genitalia, with some even serving as macabre sustenance for his twisted appetites. Engaging in grotesque experiments in a bid to create compliant zombies through the use of drills and toxic substances, Dahmer's descent into madness knew no bounds, as he sought to exert control over his victims even in death. Despite being convicted of 15 murders, Dahmer's chilling confessions hinted at a darker tally, with the specter of additional lives claimed by his insatiable bloodlust. A glimmer of hope emerged when a courageous underage boy managed to escape Dahmer's clutches, despite enduring a harrowing ordeal that included a drilled hole in his skull. Yet, even as the police intervened, Dahmer's deceitful facade as a drunken lover shielded him momentarily from justice's grasp. The wheels of fate turned in 1991 when Dahmer's reign of terror was brought to a halt, culminating in a life sentence behind bars. However, the twisted saga reached a grim conclusion as Dahmer met a brutal demise at the hands of a fellow inmate, marking the end of a chapter stained with unspeakable horrors and unfathomable cruelty. Jack the Ripper, a shadowy figure cloaked in mystery and infamy, etched his name into the annals of history with a series of grisly murders that terrorized the impoverished Whitechapel district of London in 1888. Despite a relatively modest death toll of 5 victims, the Ripper's notoriety stems from his ability to evade capture, leaving a trail of fear and speculation in his wake, targeting old prostitutes whom he likely solicited for their services. The Ripper's sinister agenda unfolded as a deadly transaction unbeknownst to his victims, sealing their fates with a surgeon-like precision that bespoke a chilling level of skill and calculation. In an era devoid of modern communication channels, the populace relied on newspapers and word of mouth, amplifying the sense of dread and uncertainty that gripped the community. Reports detailing the Ripper's gruesome acts of removing internal organs with meticulous care-fueled speculation about his intelligence and potential affluence, shrouding the killer in an aura of sophistication and menace. The Ripper's reign of terror unfolded with a relentless succession of victims, each discovery plunging London deeper into a state of panic and paranoia. Rumors and myths swirled around the Ripper's identity, painting him as a vampiric blood drinker or a vengeful specter exacting justice on society's immoral denizens. The marginalized status of the victims, predominantly poor prostitutes struggling to eke out a living, further compounded the apathy of authorities and society at large, casting a grim shadow over their plight. Despite exhaustive investigations and a myriad of suspects proposed over the years, Jack the Ripper's true identity remains an enduring enigma, shrouded in the mists of time and perpetuating one of history's most enduring mysteries. Charles Manson, a notorious cult leader, wielded a potent blend of charisma and manipulation to amass a devoted following under the banner of the Manson family in the late 1960s. Drawing on impressionable young women with his twisted ideologies, Manson propagated a dark philosophy centered around inciting a race war he dubbed Helter Skelter, envisioning a cataclysmic conflict that would herald societal upheaval. In a chilling display of influence, Manson orchestrated a series of brutal murders through his followers, orchestrating a campaign of violence aimed at igniting racial tensions and sowing chaos. In August 1969, members of the Manson family carried out a heinous spree of killings at the behest of their leader, culminating in the brutal slaying of pregnant actress Sharon Tate and 4 others at her Los Angeles residence. The following night, the cult's reign of terror continued with the murder of Leno and Rosemary LaBianca, their deaths punctuated by messages scrawled in blood that sought to shift blame onto targeted groups. Perpetuating a facade of orchestrated chaos, Manson's insidious influence extended beyond mere words, as he manipulated his acolytes into executing his malevolent designs, leveraging their loyalty to carry out his depraved commands. While Manson himself did not physically commit the murders, his culpability in orchestrating the atrocities was undeniable, leading to his conviction on charges of conspiracy to commit murder. Initially sentenced to death, Manson's punishment was later commuted to life imprisonment, serving as a grim testament to the enduring legacy of a man who wielded charisma as a weapon of destruction, leaving a trail of devastation in his wake. The Butcher of Plainfield, Ed Gein, a reclusive figure dwelling in the shadows of his family farm in Plainfield, Wisconsin, descended into a nightmarish realm of depravity and horror following the death of his domineering mother in 1945. Bereft of his sole anchor to reality, Gein's fragile psyche unraveled, paving the way for a descent into a macabre world of necrophilia, grave desecration, and, ultimately, murder. The grim specter of Gein's atrocities came to light in 1957, when authorities investigating a local woman's disappearance unearthed a scene of unimaginable horror within the confines of the seemingly innocuous farmer's abode. Within the walls of his dwelling lay a grotesque tableau of human skin fashioned into household items and clothing, with skulls repurposed as morbid ornaments and furniture crafted from the flesh of the deceased. Delving deeper into the abyss of Gein's twisted psyche, investigators uncovered a trove of macabre artifacts, including preserved body parts and a chilling collection of human remains harvested from local graveyards, a testament to his morbid fixation on his deceased mother. The depths of Gein's depravity were further laid bare with the discovery of 2 mutilated and dismembered female victims on his property, their bodies bearing the grisly hallmarks of his deranged handiwork. Diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia and deemed legally insane, Gein's monstrous deeds transcended the bounds of comprehension, leaving a legacy of terror and revulsion that would inspire the creation of iconic horror films such as Psycho and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, immortalizing his name in the annals of infamy as a harbinger of unspeakable horror. Zodiac Killer, the enigmatic figure known as the Zodiac Killer, cast a chilling shadow over California during a reign of terror characterized by a twisted game of cat and mouse with law enforcement and the media, motivated not solely by the act of murder itself, but by the attention and fear his crimes elicited. The Zodiac Killer reveled in the macabre spectacle of his own making, viewing his atrocities as a sinister form of entertainment in a deadly game of wits. With a penchant for theatrics, the Zodiac Killer meticulously crafted detailed letters to police and media outlets, tantalizing them with cryptic clues and information only the perpetrator could possess, adding a layer of intrigue and mockery to his taunting missives. The killer's spree of violence commenced with the shooting of two teenagers in Benicia's Lover's Lane in December 1968, setting the stage for a series of brazen attacks that targeted young couples in secluded locales, meticulously orchestrated to maximize shock value and media attention. As the body count mounted over the ensuing year, the Zodiac Killer's taunting messages and cryptic codes served as a twisted testament to his malevolent genius, fueling a frenzied pursuit by authorities desperate to unmask the elusive predator lurking in their midst. Despite a relentless investigation and a deluge of potential suspects, the Zodiac Killer remained a spectral enigma, evading identification and leaving a trail of unsolved mysteries in his wake. While the killer's letters boasted of a staggering body count, reaching as high as 37 victims, authorities were only able to definitively link him to 5 confirmed murders, underscoring the enduring enigma that shrouded the identity and motives of one of history's most elusive and enigmatic serial killers. The Rostov Ripper. The chilling saga of the Rostov Ripper, Andrei Chikatilo, stands as a harrowing testament to the depths of human depravity and the devastating consequences of systemic failures in law enforcement and forensic science. Operating with impunity across Russian towns such as Rostov, Shakhty, and New Cheras, between 1973 and 1990, Chikatilo's reign of terror claimed the lives of at least 53 women and children, leaving a trail of unspeakable horror in his wake. Targeting vulnerable individuals ranging from 7 to 36 years old, Chikatilo's modus operandi involved luring his victims under false pretenses of assistance and compassion, exploiting their trust and desperation to lead them to secluded locations, where he could unleash his sadistic impulses without fear of interruption. The depths of Chikatilo's depravity knew no bounds, as he engaged in acts of necrophilia and cannibalism following his brutal killings, inflicting unspeakable atrocities upon his victims in a grotesque display of inhumanity. Against the backdrop of a tumultuous Soviet Union plagued by economic hardship and social upheaval, Chikatilo preyed upon the vulnerable and marginalized, offering false promises of aid and financial assistance before subjecting them to unspeakable acts of violence and mutilation. Despite a protracted investigation by Soviet authorities, Chikatilo eluded capture for over a decade, evading justice as his killing spree continued unabated. The Ripper's reign of terror finally met its end in 1990, when a routine document check exposed his connection to the murders, leading to his long-awaited arrest and subsequent confession to the heinous crimes that had terrorized a nation. During his trial, Chikatilo chillingly recounted the pleasure he derived from his acts of violence and mutilation, offering a glimpse into the twisted psyche of a remorseless killer driven by dark impulses. Found guilty of 52 murders, Chikatilo met his ultimate fate in 1994 when he was sentenced to death by firing squad, bringing a measure of closure to the victims and their grieving loved ones, while underscoring the enduring legacy of one of history's most notorious serial killers. That's it. I already explained about Psycho Killer. Which Psycho Killer do you know? Please feel free to share. If you have any questions or suggest some topic, please leave a comment. We read all the comments of your guys. Thank you for watching until now. Like, subscribe, and turn the bell button to get notices when we release new videos. Goodbye.